basic functions can happen. First is save and save as. These are how you save your worksheet or workbook in different formats. If you already have it saved, save will just resave with any changes that you've made since you've opened it. Save as allows you to save it as a different name, which you can enter here. You can change the location up in here, or you can change the save type into different formats. The default of Excel 2010 is what's called a .xlsx format. .xlsm is what we use for a lot of the different worksheets that have functionality built into them. .xls is the previous versions of Excel files. There are also plenty of other different formats that we are probably not going to use but are available to us. Open and close do just that. They allow you to open files or close the current file that you're working on. If you try to close a file that has had changes made to it, it will prompt you and ask you if you want to save it. The info pane shows you information about the file that you're currently working on. The information, most of the basic file information shows up here in this far right hand pane. The size, title and tags, category, dates modified, who the author was, who last modified it, and the file's location. In the middle are a permissions button that allows you to protect and keep other people from changing either the workbook as a whole or different parts of the workbook. You can prepare for sharing with this button. It'll check for any issues and pop up any warnings that it may find. And here, if there are multiple versions of it, you can manage these versions here. The recent shows you all the recent documents that you've had open and places. New allows you to open up a new document. A blank workbook has no formatting, but there are plenty of other different templates available that are built into Excel. Print allows you to select the printer, select the number of copies, and there are other different options here. You can print only the active sheets, you can print the workbook as a whole, or you can print just a selection that you may have. You can print on both sides, you can collate them, you can change the orientation from portrait to landscape, or a useful one here is scaling. You can try and fit everything so that it fits on one page, or you could shrink down the columns so that they fit on one page. Or you can try and fit all the rows on one page, which is probably not going to work very well for a big document like this. So save and send. This allows you to easily save it and then send it as an attachment in some form. You can send using email if you have Thunderbird or Outlook installed on the computer and you have it set up for your account. You can save to the web, which we don't really have anything set up on here, but if you did, you could use that. You could save to SharePoint, which is a enterprise level sharing program that Microsoft has that we don't have set up in the store. You can create a PDF document, or you could change the file type from within here. Help, or the F1 button, is very useful if you're stuck on a formula or a cell or you're getting errors on something that you're trying to do. A lot of times hitting F1 will bring up the help file that's specific to what it is you're working on, although it may not be the most helpful in its explanation. It can at least give you a good idea of what it is that needs to be fixed. Options contains a lot of menus for changing Excel settings, but for the most part these don't need to be changed from the defaults for most cases. So the ribbon. This has been Microsoft's newer menu layout that they changed starting in Office 2007. Instead of having the old version, which was File, Edit, Tools, View, Insert, I don't really remember how they went. This the ribbon tries to categorize functions according to their use cases. So in Home, which is kind of your default, this contains the most used functions according to polls and actual studies that Microsoft has done. So here you have cut and copy, which are very commonly used. You have your fonts and like background color here. If I selected that and changed here, I could change it to black, blue, whatever I wanted. These make the fonts bold, italic, or underlined. You can see underlined. This right here is does borders for the cells. You can choose all sorts of different borders. This grid, across the outside, box border, lots of different styles in here. Next to that you have the different justifications, center, left, and right. Different alignments. You can wrap text so that for like here, like if we selected this and wrap the text and then shrunk it down, you can see how it wraps down instead of running off to the right there. These are the formatting of the cells. So here you can see that it's set up as an accounting, which gives it a $ and number format. Over here you can see it has a date format. Conditional formatting, different kinds of styles, insertion, deletion, formatting, auto sums, fills, and clears. You can sort by columns on here, or you can find or replace different things. The Insert tab is where you add elements to the sheet. Tables, pictures, different objects, screenshots. You can create graphs based on data that's in there. You can insert equations, different symbols. Symbols are where you find characters like the ñ sound for Spanish languages, different things that may not be found on your keyboard. Page layout has all the options for general formatting of the sheet as a whole. Themes, the margins, which are the blank spots on the top, bottom, left, and right of the sheet when you print it. The page orientation, width and height, automatic. Grid lines, if you want these grayed out grid lines that show up by default, if you want those to actually print, you would check that. If you don't even want to see them at all, you can uncheck the view and then they disappear. Formulas contain all the different formula options, and there are a lot of different formulas that are in Excel. Summations, financial, logical, text functions, date and time formulas, lookups, math and trigonometry, and other assorted ones. Data contains functions that manipulate the data in the sheet or from other sources. A lot of the worksheets that we use to pull data out of our point of sale use data sources to use the database as a data source to pull out information with this stuff. Review should be a final stop when before you print a sheet or before you share it. This is where you can do spell check. You can do a research. This will pull up different reference materials, or thesaurus. So these sort into tabs so that basically each tab is all the same kinds of functions that are similar to each other or pertain to each other, are close to each other, so you don't have to go searching through all the different menus. Some tabs are only visible when you're working on a specific element, like a picture or a table, so that it reduces the clutter. So there may be a function that you know is there that you worked with in 2003, but it doesn't show up until you actually click on the element. As an example, we'll insert a table here, and so now we have the table selected, and you can see up here this Table Tools has popped up, and it shows different design options that are only available to tables. So the formula bar, which we talked about in lesson 1, is right here in between the ribbon and the spreadsheet. This is the place where you enter values or formulas. Context menus, or right-click menus, when you right-click on a cell, it'll bring up a context menu. And this gives you a list of options that are available to affect the selection. You can cut, copy, there's different formatting options up here, insert, delete cells, clear the contents of the cell, filter, sort, other different options. The contents of that menu can change depending on what you've selected, in the same way that the ribbon tabs, some of them only show up when you have a certain element selected. You can press enter. You can use the arrow keys up, down, left, and right to move the selection to different cells. Or you can just use your mouse to select a cell. If you're typing something and you decide, oh, I did that wrong, you can always hit escape, and that'll clear whatever you've typed in or changed into the cell. Cells can be moved directly. Select the cell you want to move, and then move the cursor to the border of it, and you'll see how the cursor changes to the arrows. Then you can grab it and then move the cell to wherever it is you want to go. The values and the formatting will move to the new location. So editing a cell. There's two ways to edit the cell. You can double-click on the cell in question and a cursor will appear. Or you can select the cell and then click up here in the formula bar to edit. Autocorrect. As you type, Excel will make assumptions and then suggest corrections to your entry. So it may offer to auto-complete the date, or it can auto-capitalize a sentence if it thinks that you're typing a sentence. Or in this case, as I start to type, it suggests, hey, you've typed hello world twice, maybe you want to write it again. So sure. This is an easy way to help you save time as you're typing. So cut, copy, and paste. These are three very common functions that you may find yourself using a lot. All three are available by right-clicking a cell or a range. A range is what you would call multiple cells. So if we select these three and we right-click, we'll do cut. When copy or cut is active, there appears this flashing border around the selection. If you edit a different cell, it makes the first selection unavailable for use until you select it again. So what's the difference between copy and cut? Well, copy, or you can also use the keyboard shortcut Control-C to copy. So Control-C. This keeps the original selection intact, makes a copy, and then that's available to use in one or more places. So we can put that as many places as we want. Cut, or Control-X, removes the original, or not at first, but if we paste it into another spot, the original moves with it, and it doesn't make, you can't use it in one or more place, in more than one place. It's only you remove it from one spot and you put it in another. Paste is what you use to copy into the new locations. Copy and then paste. You'll notice that there are multiple paste options, different ways of pasting. Paste simply places all the formatting and values into the new location. You can also do paste values, which only has the text, or if you have formulas, it'll have what is displayed, not the actual formula itself. If you had formulas, you could place just the formulas, which it's just text in this case. You can transpose, which is useful here. If you notice, we have these all in one big column. But say we wanted to take that entire column and move it to a row. You can copy it as a transpose, and then everything gets placed in a row. You can also just paste the formatting alone and not the values themselves if you want to use that. Autofill is a quick way to replicate values across large areas, or if you want to auto-increment values or dates. So if you were to grab this, and in your selection in the bottom right hand corner there's a slightly larger black box. If you take that and pull it, it will move and expand your selection across. In this case, it's basically just copying everything. But say you wanted to auto-increment, like some numbers. Let's try that again. If we were to take that, grab the box, and start dragging it down, you'll notice next to my cursor it shows what number is being incremented. And it also increments the formatting as well, which in this case we don't really want, but we'll just run with it for now. There. To insert a single cell, you can right-click on the location and insert a cell. And it'll ask you which way you want to shift all the different cells. In this case, it's going to insert everything from that cell that we selected down one and put a blank spot here. Or if we wanted, we could move it to the right and just bump that one over. You can also insert entire rows or columns. So if, say we wanted to have another column here, you can insert by right-clicking up here on this top column header. Or you can insert entire rows. It's also possible to insert copied cells or ranges that you've copied or cut from a different selection. You can delete rows or columns in two different ways. If you just grab a selection and then delete, it'll prompt you to shift the cells in some direction, or you can do the entire row. Or if you want to do a shortcut and just delete this entire column, hit the column up here and delete, and it disappears.